So I did that, and that was a labor-intensive, crazy thing. And then I get ready for the podcast, and now I'm writing comedy, I'm writing stand-up, and I'm going down whatever, and I'm like, I don't know, a pinball. So
Yeah.
Are you the same way?
Totally a pinball. Yeah. I think I described it like I feel like my mind is a ball pit of squirrels.
Welcome to Season 2 of the TheKnifeWife podcast. I'm Suz, here with my husband,
Bob Terzuola.
We're professional creatives and entrepreneurs who live, love, and work together. We share our stories to find ourselves in others. P.S. This podcast has little to do with knives. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TheKnifeWife podcast. It's Suz. I'm here with my husband remotely, Bob. He's home with laryngitis. Say hello, Fun Bobby.
That's me. I'm reporting from a secret, undisclosed location.
And once again, this podcast is about everything and nothing, a sexagenarian and an octogenarian having a late in life crisis. And so we can't do a TikTok dance, although I'm going to be on TikTok, I think, soon. My media company is putting me on there, but I still can't do the dance. Anyway, I love to interview people who I've met who I think are interesting. And I've met, fortunately, so many interesting people in so many places that it's really a variety of people on the show. We started it out with people who work together, and that was not sustainable. That I learned a very valuable lesson that people who work together, they don't like to talk together. One's shy, one's aggressive and or assertive, and so it's a real. It wasn't working. So anyway, I went with the things that I love to do, and it's pretty much working out. Our audience is building, and I was found by this media company because of it. So I'm really blown away still. Anyway, so today I have a woman on who I met at a Bonnie Christine workshop in Charleston just over a year ago. And when I met her, she walked into this coffee with a bunch of kind of Iowa moms, and she stood out like glowing. She was dressed very hip, and she had a slouchy hat on, and she looked at me and she goes, "I love what you're wearing. I want that." And I sort of had a girl crush on her instantly. And there was just something about her, and I knew nothing about her at all. She just walked in the room, and she was just one of those people that I thought, oh, I want to get to know you better. And I pretty much didn't get to know anybody else the whole weekend. So I want to introduce Feral Nifty.
Hello. The girl crush was mutual, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It was so great. And, from that weekend, where I thought I was going and where I'm ending up is a completely different direction. Although they encouraged me to do this, my mastermind group encouraged me to do some sort of entertainment or whatever they felt. And I can't sing, I can't dance. I don't know what I was going to do. But anyway, here we are.
I'm sure you can. I'm a firm believer that everyone can. That could be the topic of discussion.
Yes. They called me at Second City. They called me Two-Note Susie.
Oh.
So I cannot sing. And I come from a family of singers, but I don't play golf either. So, I think I'm the fun one. But anyway, so I met this woman, and not only could she sing, was fabulous artist. I mean, her paintings, I was watching her, we were in this workshop, and she was on her iPad drawing these really intricate, phenomenal paintings on her iPad at the speed of light. It was like watching it in fast motion while listening to the thing. And, I thought, wow, and she's smart. and she's had quite a life. And so I don't know really where to start, except you're multi-talented, Feral. And I said to her, yeah, that's not your birth name.
No.
So I said, how did you get that name? And so let's start with that.
Oh, yes. My mom loves to tell people that she didn't name me this.
I'm sure she does.
Even though there's probably some truth to how she felt about me as a child with the name Feral. But I didn't have the name till about 8 years ago. My daughter, who is, of course, she was 10. She was way more tech savvy than me, changed the nickname on my phone. And I didn't know one that we had nicknames on our phones.
I don't know that. I don't know that. Yeah.
No, Siri loves to give you a good nickname, especially if they're provided by your daughter. So So she changed my name to a bunch of different things at a various time. Like some of them are pretty funny to me, like a bunch of muscle dumplings. So Siri would call me that, or short toupee, which my mom actually still gets emails with that tag somehow attached to it. And then Feral Nifty was sort of the last of when she won, but I liked it. There's something about both being feral, being wild, being kind of a little bit unkept, which is true. I'm not really fond of bathing, but nifty means that like, that's kind of cool. That's awesome.
Nifty.
She's useful. She's a little bit handy. And so I felt actually like it was kind of an accurate thing. She doesn't know where she came up with it. And so how I ended up actually adopting it was because I released some music during COVID and I wasn't ready to be me. I just wasn't really ready to go that, Robin Forsyth, the minivan driving mother wasn't ready to have her songs on Spotify. But Feral Nifty was, because she's wild and handy. So
and nifty.
Nifty, exactly. So that's how that came about, that sort of ownership of it. And then what was interesting about it was I didn't realize the implications of it. When you choose a pseudonym and you do a bunch of different genres, you have to actually think about whether that pseudonym is going to apply to all of them. So I put out this music, and then I was like, what about my art? Does Feral do the art, or does Robin do the art? And I chose that Feral was going to hold all of that.
Good. See, I'm eccentric Suz.
Yes.
Because I am. When this media company, I said, they keep talking about branding me. And I said, will it hurt? It seems like that would hurt.
Oh, it does.
And so I said, what am I going to be? The Knife Wife? Am I going to be? I don't want to use my real name. I don't want to use my real name. And I don't mind my first name, but I don't want to use my last name. And I said, what will we do? And they said, well, Suz, this is just good, eccentric Suz. And I said, really? People can't even spell eccentric. They said, no, that really describes you best. And I said, or Suz. And I said, well, I'm not Prince. I'm not Cher. I mean, Suz, come on. But who knows where we're going? We'll know in January. That's when they're going to put the branding on me.
Well, don't you think, I think some of it's interesting when you do choose a pseudonym. Another thing you don't realize is ownership of it. People are willing to accept it as long as you do. If you own it, I bet you Bono doesn't think twice, or The Rock think twice about being referred to like, oh my God, it's The Rock. And he's like, yeah, I'm The Rock. I'm also Dwayne Johnson, but I am these two things. I've had a hard time with the ownership of it because, I live a life of imposter syndrome, like I guess so many people do.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm working on that, stepping into it. And I also own being Robin. It's not, I want to own both. They have their different places.
Yeah, there's my home life, in which I'm Susie girl, or Susie as they call me. And then there's eccentric Suz, who's, designing patterns, designing knife patterns, designing whatever, doing the podcast, doing stand-up. I still can't believe I'm saying those words.
Getting her tight 10 on day one.
Oh boy. Well, I want to tell you, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. But I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about you. So you do so many things, and you do them well. So you sent me a link to a soundscape. And at first when you wrote soundscape, I thought, what is a soundscape? I don't know what that is. So tell us a lot about this. And I listened to it, and I instantly went into sort of like a relaxed trance. And I went, wow, she's onto something. Because I don't usually get, like if those, I don't know, there's apps and stuff they have for meditation or whatever, and I can't shut it off during those. I'm like, I just want to throw my phone across the room. I can't. But this was some serious stuff. So tell me how you made that, why you made that, and all that.
Okay, well, I can talk for quite a while about it because, okay, that's good. Okay, with that invitation, here I go.
Yes.
So that particular track is song 6 of a 7-song soundscape that will grow, that was inspired by psychedelic therapy. When you do psychedelic therapy or psychedelics in a setting for self-reflection, I should say. I mean, I'm not for anything in any which way. This is my approach to it. Music is a huge part of where you journey and where you travel to and how you reflect. And so there's a lot of great music, but I was inspired to add to that pool and to reflect what had happened to me or how I felt in my journey and bring it back into the music. And so I decided that I wanted to make one. But I also feel like the world of psychedelics may be a little controversial for people. Not everyone's into it. And I don't think everyone should have to be into it. And they shouldn't have to do psychedelics in order to have a sense of reflection and rest and peace and come away with a little bit of self-knowledge, I guess, or just a nice time. So I wanted to create something that could maybe emulate those experiences without requiring any kind of medicine or plant medicine.
Thank you, because I've never done really well with those. But I'm old enough that psychedelic therapy, they did this in the 60s and 70s, and I think they have a better handle on it now. I mean, I know a lot of people who are microdosing now.
Yeah.
And so when you say psychedelic therapy, like they used to give mushrooms or peyote, and sometimes they didn't clean that peyote out too well, those psychiatrists. And
Right.
people were sick as, or ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's too much for me. I mean, first of all, if someone tells me you're going to throw up, I leave the room. And I know that you can't do it without doing that, so I'm never doing ayahuasca.
Yeah,
But,
I haven't done ayahuasca because of the same thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
But I've done psilocybin,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, it was really helpful. It's a really interesting and place to go. It gave me all sorts of interesting insights that I wasn't looking for. But
Well, that's
it's like
probably what it's all about, right?
exactly. Yeah. So when I did the music, I decided to design a soundscape or like something just as a starting place. You always need a starting place, and I chose the number 7. I'm sure it's got some spiritual meaning, but also just I liked it. And I wanted it to be something that would be sort of a cyclical design. So I wanted the first song to feel like you're in the earth a little bit, like you're waiting to emerge. It's a little bit dark. It's close. The sound feels close. And then you emerge from the earth, and it's a bit scary, and the world is quite big, and you didn't quite, you're out of the womb, you're out of the earth, and then you go from there. You're kind of moving up the trees, and then it starts to be fun. I guess it becomes quite fun. You are swinging through trees. You are in joy of life and the surroundings and the beauty of it. And then the next place you come is you basically pop out of the canopy. And that's what this song is. This feeling a little bit of like that you're going to come back down, but you've kind of broken the canopy, and there's this vastness, this openness.
And it's bird-like.
Oh, yeah.
And I love birds. I really had a sense that I was flying above things. I mean, I didn't know any of this when I listened to it. I just listened to it cold. And I had a sense of being a bird or being above things and coming back down by the time it was over. So you created it. You did it. That was perfect.
It's so interesting too, because like some of the other music came and it just was like, oh, this is a 4. Oh, I'd be like, oh, I started playing something and I'm like, oh no, that's the 4. We basically just made the songs on numbers, right? At this point, because they do have names a little bit. I can't even remember them. Like this one's called Revere, because when I wanted to get into 6, I wanted you to be sort of in reverence. So a lot of the songs came along and I'd be like, oh, that's a 2, that's a 4, that's, and I knew what they were.
It's like an enneagram.
Yeah, totally. And then, but 6 didn't come. It just wasn't there. And it was so important, right? To get to a place of reverence. And my friend Adam, who I work with, I'm not solo at all. I'm a partnership. I make a lot of the tracks. I make the tracks, and he then responds and produces, and he just does everything else, right?
Okay.
I do all the vocals. Oh, anyway, that's a side note. But anyhow, he kept saying to me, "It's going to come, Feral. It'll come. 6 is there." And I was like getting a bit worried as our deadline was coming up. And then one day it did. It just showed up, and I just sat down and recorded all the vocals, which is like multi-layers of harmonies. And then I was tired because that was a lot of my heart out there, and I put it out into my computer. And then I walked away and went and did some painting just to kind of switch gears. And while I was painting, I got pretty teary and just sort of reflecting on those moments of in medicine and journeying and coming back from it and almost feeling a little apprehensive, like the reverence, and then the like, oh, I have to return back to the real world.
You got to land.
Yeah, I got to land. That's right. You guys will know what that means when you listen to the song. So I went, but instead of just kind of sitting there and reflecting and continue to paint, I went straight back to my microphone and I started reading some of my journal entry pieces and I have a problem with my breath. I'm a singer, but I really struggle with breathing at times. Like it really closes down, and it's a common theme for me. And that's where all that breath came in. And I just breathed into the microphone and I said those words into the microphone. And when my voice catches, my voice was catching, because this is the truth of where I was. And then we, Adam and I, went through and cleaned all that up, to make it palatable, right? Not just emotional, but something that you could connect to, hopefully, and allow people to go to those places as well.
Well, you did a good job. I mean, you did. I want to hear the rest of it, though. And I'm not going to take psychedelics, though, and do it. I didn't really do well with those. One time I was taking psilocybin, as a matter of fact. I took it at 3 o'clock at the end of school day in high school, and I came home, and all of a sudden I was literally tripping balls, as they say. And I was, not the kind of person who wanted to be high for 12 hours. That's not my thing. I like control. That's my favorite drug of choice. But anyway,
Right.
So my mother called me for dinner, and I sat down at the dinner table, and like the bread rolls were moving around, and she was saying weird things, which she wasn't, but I was thinking she was. And you're too high when you say to your parents, "I'm taking LSD, and I need to go to my room." And they dropped their forks.
Yeah.
They're like, "What?" And my mother said, "Should I call the doctor?" I said, "No." I said, "It just has to wear off, and I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry." And I went up to my room, and that night I said, I'd tried other things, because this was the early 70s. Everybody was trying stuff.
Yeah.
And but nobody was doing it therapeutically in my group. And so I realized that was just probably not for me. But it has produced, for lots of people I know lately, some great breakthroughs. And so I'm not against it at all. I think my friend, though, who microdoses, sometimes I think he doesn't quite get his mushrooms in the right proportion, or what. I don't know how you do it, but he has to put them together in capsules, and he's a little out there. And I'm thinking he's 80, and I'm thinking you might want to have somebody else do this for you and just give them to you. But anyway, so I think it's a field that was sort of let go years ago, and it's back. And I know a lot of people are putting a lot of money and research into it for people, especially for veterans, people with PTSD.
Yeah.
Whatever makes people feel better. I don't care what it is. I mean, as long as it doesn't hurt someone, I don't care what it is.
In my experience, I've certainly had wonderful experiences within the medicine. But if you provide yourself a container that's similar, like when you go for the medicine, you take time for it, and you sit in a circle, and you have readings, and you listen to those readings, and you reflect on them, and then you give yourself the space to rest and relax, and you give yourself the tools, which is the sound, the smells, the environment, right? The care, the other people around caring for you. Those elements are as powerful as the medicine, or if not more so, but we're not giving them to ourselves enough.
Yeah.
Because I've had some experiences where I've done the psilocybin, but then it was maybe a day later in the same group that I had equally as powerful an experience just by being, I say held, but not sort of actually held, but also held in space and in spirit and in care that were equally as powerful as being in medicine.
Okay. Well, and it says on your Soundscape, the number 6, it says revere liminala. What is liminala?
Well, I really love the word liminal because it's that place between awake and sleep. And so I wanted to call this thing liminal, or something around liminal. And I also really want this thing to be community driven, something where like the influences that happen in all of these community spaces I give them space to be, right? They show up. And so the liminala came because a friend, Jonathan, said, "Oh, in Venice, they do something," and it had an "ah" on the end. There's a festival that has an A on the end. And he's like, "So you could call it liminala." And I was like, done.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And so he's got a little piece now of Jonathan is in the thing. So I, with a lot of the stuff, I actually did all the vocals. I did everything independently because I was a bit afraid to ask about people to come and be part of my creativity. I didn't feel confident enough, but I really actually want this to be grown with community and have other people's voices in it, because I think they play a role when you're lying there. You can hear your community in that, right? Hear those different timbres and the warmth that creates. So as I'm going forward, I'm starting to bring more people in.
Good. It sounds exciting, actually.
Yeah.
When I came home from that conference and I met you, I said, Bob, it was sort of like, I was trying to describe you like meeting a female Leonardo da Vinci. Because she could do it all, and she did things that no one, she'd been held with boundaries of motherhood and a relationship and society. But if we could let her go and let her fly, man.
Yes, if I could have a full assistant, I tell you.
Yes, yes. Because you paint and you sculpt and you
do.
sing and you do this music and your podcast. Tell me a little about your podcast. I just
my
remember
podcast is on hold.
Yeah, that happens.
I know but it happened because my dear friend Catherine Fawcett, it's called the Feral Fawcett.
It's called the Feral Fawcett. Very clever
Yes,
again.
Fawcett, we were talking. She's like, and we all are. She's like, I'm time poor. And when I have extra time, she's like, I should be doing the writing I'm talking about on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally agree. And we were both at that place. And so we loved it. We laughed, it was always like one of the greatest parts of the week. We would laugh so hard. But also it was a lot of work, the editing and everything. And so we put it on hiatus. We can't say it's not happening, right, in the future, but we just were like, okay, we just need to get a little more space.
Yeah. Would you ever think about doing a podcast yourself?
I did do it myself. I really need, one, I really believe in community. Two, and I think it brings out a better part of me. It helps me stay in the good parts of me. When I was on my own, I edited like you wouldn't, I would never did a single there wasn't any spaces. I had no, I was just because I spent so much time making it so that I could be perceived as perfect.
The perfect podcast.
It was a perfect podcast. All one of them, right? Like I did another 2 or 3 edits, but I didn't release them because of that nature in myself to just want to perfect to the point of maybe losing authenticity and losing, and just time. And so Catherine was great because I'd be like, oh, I can't believe I said that. And she's like, it's fine. And then I'd be like, sure, that's fine. And then I'm like, okay. And then I would be able to bypass the edit button, and then she'd be like, oh, I'm so mean to you. And I was like, no, it's great. It's great. I love it. And she'd be like, okay. And so then the two of us would work that way together, and it was okay, to own some of the humanity of ourselves, I guess. Yeah.
Well, and having guests, scheduling guests is not my favorite part about doing it, but I didn't want it to be all me all the time. Yeah. And thank God I have Matteo sitting here, an editor who gives the best of me. And I'm so thankful that my son said when I told him we were going to do the podcast, well, where are you going to do it? What room are you going to do it in? Are you going to do it in the bathroom? Are you going to do it in a closet? And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it in the studio. He said, it's going to cost money, Mom. I said, I don't want to know that skill set.
Yeah.
I have no desire. I said, I want somebody who knows what they're doing and, so I can do what I want to do. And so it's worked out pretty well. Here he is sitting here and he does great edits and sends them, I look forward to his emails with, here's the next one. Yeah. He was nodding when you were talking about editing out ums and uhs. We had someone on who had a stutter or a stammer and, 14 minutes he cut out of that.
Right.
And so that was, he did his work, man. I was so sorry when we were done. I was like, I'm so sorry, Maddie.
Well, Matteo, I was a Toastmaster, but you might not be able to tell. But I did try to get my and ahs under control.
Oh, really? Yeah. See, I have no public speaking experience at all. And I said, oh, yeah, let's just try some stand-up. But I don't do a lot of ums and ahs. Sometimes I say, so anyway. I do that a lot. He's nodding. I can see him nodding out of the corner of my head.
Yes.
But that's my segue. What can I tell you? So let's see, though the podcast is on hold. What other interests, you paint and you do so many things. Tell us a little bit about the juggling of all these things.
It's totally a juggling. I wish I could give everyone a tour of my studios. You can see, right, as you look behind, I have a wig in purple and green that I've built, a hard cap wig right behind me.
And what is that for?
Well, that's for drag queens, dames of anyone that feels like they need a little bit of expression. Okay. But it's also for my friend who I work with regularly, who is a photographer, and we make costuming and characters all together, and she photographs them and then goes into Photoshop and does a lot. So I'm her right-hand girl. I help with the building of, the concepts. I'm the person that says, oh, I don't know about that idea, or yes, that's a great idea. We kind of just have a really beautiful teamwork.
Nice. And I see portraits of people.
Yeah, so then I have the painting portraits, and then I have my keyboard. I think you can't quite see right beside me, beside my mic and all my recording equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And and I have a sculpture over there. Yeah, so I have a lot of things going on. The figurative sculpture is interesting. Is really sometimes what calls to me as that art piece that I want to do, but it requires a different kind of space. So I've always gone sort of small. It requires it's dirty. It's all these sort of things. So I
Mm-hmm.
keep kind of just filling. I keep doing everything all the time. I just can't help but do. But
Yes.
when I was in Italy, I did go because I was like, I really need to get back to sculpture because I feel like sculpture is really my skill, I just love it. It just makes sense to me. I can just see something and I need to move it through me,
Mm-hmm.
and build. So yeah,
And people in portraits, I mean, you're very good at capturing people.
I love people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want that. I really love to capture that.
Mm-hmm.
And even like in music, the capturing of people, what is the joy of music is, when you write a song and it's really personal, but is that it's somebody else, it captures somebody else's experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy that element that, that connects you, is that it may be your story, but it's also their story and the kind of ownership that they take on your song if they connect with it. I have a few people and a couple songs out. One that my friend's like, you wrote this for me. And I was like, I did in a way. And in the end now, when I think of that song or I even play that song, she's there. I think of her,
Mm-hmm.
it is her song.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really like people.
Yeah, you do. So, for me, I'm sort of like the ADD artist. I have many things in my studio. I don't have music in my studio like you do or sculpture, but I have all kinds of printmaking disciplines in my studio. And then I have my computer with the dreaded Illustrator for pattern
Yes.
making. And it's really, not my jam, but I do it because it's the only way to get a vector file to a company. So, okay. I go through, I don't know, how do I describe it? I do something until I have mastered it or it's gotten to look the way I thought it should look. I had it in my mind. I'm working on whatever piece. And then I totally ignore that and go to the next thing. And then I go
Right.
out to my garden. And this year I got rid of most of the vegetable garden. I grew some tomatoes and basil for Fun Bobby, but otherwise I got rid of all the vegetables that I grow. And I planted dahlias because I love dahlias and I just think they're just gorgeous flowers. So I planted a cutting garden.
Oh, nice.
And I planted it. I see it out my studio window, and so I got to look at it. And it's done for the year. And they tell me in California you can leave the tubers in all winter. I can't even believe that. I used to have to dig them up in
really?
other
Cool.
colder climates. But anyway, so so I did that, and that was a labor-intensive, crazy thing. And then I get ready for the podcast, and now I'm writing comedy, I'm writing stand-up, and I'm going down whatever. And I'm like I don't know, a pinball. So
Yeah.
Are you the same way?
Totally a pinball. Yeah. I think I described it like I feel like my mind is a ball pit of squirrels. And
Yeah.
and it's a pretty insecure one too. I mean, I think that's what's kind of interesting about how people perceive people like us. It's like, it's both wonderful and it's also kind of terrible. I mean, in order to be this kind of person, you need to be a bit of an overthinker. So overthinking means that you are solving problems or like, oh, I wonder if I did this with this, I could probably do this. And then if I added that, I could do that. And then this is this, right? But it's also the same voice that goes, but if you did all of that, you can't really do this. And, do you know what you think you are and what, right? So they're one and part of the same thing. And I struggle with it, every day, but I get up here, up to the studio and try and do something.
Well, and I think artists need affirmation. I think whatever kind of art they're in, they do need affirmation. But I'm at the point in my life, I don't give a damn what anybody thinks. I'm a little old to start doing what I've been doing lately, and I don't care. I
think it's perfect, actually.
Yeah, I just don't care. Like at Bonnie Christine, I was like, they said to me, "We don't need to help you. You're on your way."
Really? That's awesome.
I'm like, "Oh, really? Oh, that's nice." And they turned it up a notch for me with the comedy thing. But I really think about, when I was younger, I didn't have the voice, or I wasn't as secure. And I am now. I am literally, I take that microphone in my hand, I put the mic stand behind me, and I stand there like I've been doing it my whole life, Feral.
Nice.
And I don't know if I'm funny. I'm probably going to, I'm going to bomb a lot. And it's also something that's very difficult, and I'm learning just how difficult it is. And they said to me, "Well, it'll take 7 years to find your voice." I'm like, "Do you know how old I am? I don't know if I have 7 years." Okay, it's gonna take 7 years to find your voice. You got to do, you got to do 1,000 hours or whatever. And I don't know. I hear the clock ticking, but we'll see. We're gonna craft it. But I see you as just differently than you see you, and I think that's true for everyone. I can see other people's strengths and their talents, and that they don't own them yet. So I hope for you that that's coming.
I think so. I think it is. Even just putting this song on this last one,
Mm-hmm.
it is so vulnerable for me to put that particular one. It's also on a technical issue is slightly different than how we originally built it. So Adam was really interested in Dolby Atmos, which is a different type of soundstage, and which means that you have 360 sound basically instead of stereo, which is these two sort of areas to the side, right? And the amount
What us dinosaurs grew up with, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So the amount of space you have is incredibly different in Atmos, and it is amazing. You can really just place sounds in a room, and then Adam does that part, and we move these things around, and it's stunning. So the vulnerability, though, that this is like really was. These are my journal, like my journal entries, and my reflections, and really my emotions that I put out there. But I really only need to connect with a few people that feel that it gives them something. I'm getting better. I was really scared to do it, and I was scared because of this Dolby Atmos. This is the point of the Dolby Atmos segue, was that it's not the same. I'm putting out a product. I no longer can control how people put it in their car and their speakers suck. I don't get to control that. When I was giving this show live, which I have all this other stuff, I'd love
You
for you
do
all
it
to come see
live?
it live. Yeah, we set up a big 8-speaker system, and everyone lies on the floor, and so it's really different than Spotify in your headphones, right?
Yes.
But I decided that was okay. I'd like to let go of trying to control everyone having the perfect experience so that they'd have the perfect reflection of me. It was just like,
Right.
no, I'm just gonna let it go, and it'll be what it is.
Yeah, a wise person told me years ago, perfection is paralysis.
Yeah.
And it is. And so good enough for government work is my motto.
That's not very high standard, my dear.
That's okay. You get it out there and you got to publish. I was a disciple of Seth Godin's for a little while.
Oh.
And he wanted me to write a book, and I'm not an author, but there may be one coming about, I carried that skeleton around the world for a year, and Bob was on me to write that book, and I'm like, I don't know if how many people want to read that book. I don't know. And he said, "Oh, you got to do it," but I don't know if I want to spend my time doing that. But anyway, he kept saying, you got to ship the work. You got to ship the work, Susie. You just got to do it. Put it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. And he beat me down into that, literally. I couldn't resist anymore. So it's been a path, to get where I am. And so I want to go back to the soundscape. When you do this, are these people laying on the floor with the speakers? Are they taking psychedelics, or are they just meditating, or is it, I don't know where it is. Tell me a little bit more what that looks like.
So imagine a room, a vast room, an open room, with 20 to 30 people lying down, and we set up speakers. I love when I use the word we, because really Adam is I want Adam to get the credit where it's due. Like he holds so much, and I think I get a lot of nods, and he does this really heavy lifting. But anyway, he sets up these speakers, eight of them. So there's ones above, they're to the sides, and they're at ground level, and so that the sound can actually move from way over behind your head left all the way to past your toes on the right. And everyone's lying there, and it just kind of creates a bubble. I'm doing all these hand gestures, everyone. Okay, there's a big bubble of sound all around you, and we just take a little bit of time. This last one, I just sang alive as we were psyched. Everyone was getting comfortable, and I was really worried about the timing, and we were having the technical elements, and so I just sang until everyone laid down, and then we press play, cross our fingers, because it doesn't seem like a big deal when music goes right, because we're used to it, right? But imagine, so we're used to a stereo system, which is everywhere, but this is a big system, and 8 speakers in a sound conditioned room without a cable humming or a frequency bumping into something that's on the shelf, right? Like it's actually a big deal. So yeah, our fingers are crossed because the people that are there should never think about how much work it was to get there.
Mm. Yeah.
They should only be able to relax into the fact and disappear with the music.
And so can you bring this experience to San Diego?
Yeah.
Can we find a place to do it in San Diego? We do it where we're at the Film Hub here where we record. We've got the perfect place to do it. We got to get some mats or something on the floor for people to lay down. But this would be a great place to do that.
I would love to. And that's where it's like, this is the next step for this is interesting because that's not my skill. I'm a maker. I'm a creative. And that's what I find really difficult about being an artist is we're right now at these stages of where I'm at. Like I'm supposed to be able to promote and, do all these things as well as build the material. And so the next stage for this is trying to figure out how to get that out there. I also want it to incorporate, light and imagery that move with the sound and projections, but again, it's about that space. And so I haven't quite got there, but as a sculptor and all that, I really see the visual aspects of supporting all this. Yeah. So basically, I guess I'm putting it out there. I would love to. Well, so let me go back one more moment. When I was thinking of this idea, I'm like, the fellow that thought of Hamilton, when he thought, I'm going to write a musical using rap, that was a crazy idea. And it's brilliant.
Yes.
It's brilliant. And when somebody thought of Cirque du Soleil, we'll have these acrobats and there's not going to be any animals. We're just going to do this, like crazy, right? To train for years and it's brilliant. And I was like, people, that's what I want to have something that's like in those veins that it's just, how do you get to that place where you can share it? So there's, you're just, I don't know. I don't know how you get to that next place, but I was like, well, why, if they had crazy ideas and they made it happen, maybe I should try and run with my crazy idea.
I think you should. Maybe we should not when we're on the podcast, but I have a few ideas.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, I'm a marketer. I market my husband. I made his social media blow up. I did all this stuff, and I spent more time doing that than my own art, but it pays the bills. So
that's so good. I'm an anti-marketer. I'll build a shelf. I'll build a shelf. Like, oh, you want me to do that? How about I go build a shelf?
That'll get it out there.
Exactly. I'm like, I really need to tidy the shoe closet.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, I was thinking those are what I call Da Vinci moments. Right now, Ken Burns, Da Vinci, I keep referring to him, but he's one of the most influential people in my life because, he was not formally trained. He was not educated. He learned everything himself. And I'm kind of like that.
Yeah.
And I think you are too. If I'm interested in something, I just go for it. And so he's on. It's on tonight too on PBS. His show that Ken Burns is. He did a great job so far of explaining Da Vinci. But people have Da Vinci moments. I've had some crazy things. Like I said, I'm going to carry a skeleton around the world for a year and take a picture of her every day and put her on my blog. And this woman at Newark Airport said to me at security, where they weren't letting me through with her because they thought she was real, not plastic, and they were holding us and we're going to miss our plane. And she said to me, well, not everyone carries a skeleton around the world. And I said, exactly. And that's exactly why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And she looked at me like I was absolutely bonkers, which I probably was bonkers. But everyone who met her, Sam, you get a sticker and stuff when you'd see her, or a button I'd give people. I had them made. I met Sam. People loved it. They absolutely loved it. I just didn't want to carry a skeleton after this year 365 project around anymore. And I had not done it. Bob, I married a fun Bobby who says, well, how are you going to monetize that? He's always asking me my creative ideas. How are you going to monetize that? I have no idea. And it seems to work out. But anyway, you need somebody who's out there doing your barking for you on the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm not a great barker. I get cold sweats. and
yes.
I want so badly to connect, but it is interesting how I have a hard time. A while back, actually, I won an award for a sculpture I did, which was really amazing. And that was the last time I posted I posted for a year. I stopped me posting for a year. Like the idea of letting people know that I'd won that award was so intimidating. Like it was just weird. And then I got kind of stuck for a whole year. I'm sort of back posting, but just funny.
Well, some of us are meant to, promote ourselves. Now, this media company that's taking me under their wing, they're going to do all my social media. I thought they wanted Bob and I as a couple, and I was going to go up to 1 million viewers. That was my goal for 2025 is 1 million viewers. And they're like, no, we're not interested in him. We want you.
Oh, poor Bob.
I
You're
know.
like, good thing you are. Good thing you're still interested in him.
Yes, and he has huge fan base. So, they've been kissing the hems of his garments for many, many years. So, we were in Italy and people were like recognizing him in museums and at the airport. We had these two guys who looked like Mario and Luigi from Mario Brothers. And they're like, it's the OG, it's the Godfather, Fox Knives, whatever. I'm like, oh my God, it's like traveling with Elvis. So, he's had a lot of that. So
maybe I should sculpt him so that we,
Yeah.
So there's somewhere for them to worship.
I always tell him I'm going to cut the bottoms of the pants off so they can have something to kiss when he leaves. But anyway, that's not for everybody. So, but these people are going to do my social media because I'm going to show you a stupid picture of when I wake up with Kramer hair. Okay, that's what I do, and I don't think that's what they're looking for that. And so they're going to put together a bunch of clips and whatever. And because I know I'm not good at promoting me. I'm good at promoting you, but I'm really bad at promoting me.
That's what we need is more of that support for each other. That's one of the lovely things about being here right now. It's just really...
Yeah, and I want you to come here and do this. I want to do this soundscape. I just think this is the coolest thing. At my age, there's not a lot of new stuff except technology, which I don't care for really. But I want a new experience. I'm all about the experience. Anyway, I want to ask you some other things before we run out of time. Like, what are you most proud of that you've done?
It's the long silence.
Okay.
I actually legitimately thought my children. I know it sounds pretty cliche to say that. And I don't know. So I'm quiet because I'm like, is that a defense or is that the truth? I'm proud that I keep trying things. I don't know if there's like one thing that I'm proud of. I'm proud for how scared I get that I keep trying and that I keep finding different ways to go about things.
Yeah.
I'm proud for my creative relationships. I'm really really proud to work with people like Diane and Adam, and that that we have a relationship that feels really positive. Like, we both are really excited about each other and what we do. And that makes me feel really proud to, when I know I've shown up for someone and I can, and then I know that they also show up for me, like just that kind of camaraderie.
Right. And then you
I'm
deliver.
proud of.
Then you deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very honest answer. Very honest. And I'm glad you scratched the surface past their kids, which I'm sure they're lovely and everything, but they're kids.
They're
going to grow up to be adults and go away.
Yeah. Well, they're already away. They're at school right now, and yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And what would you tell yourself? You're talking about your getting more self-confidence and learning more about yourself, and this psychedelics with therapy. And what would you tell yourself 20 years ago? Now that you know a lot more than you knew 20 years ago. What advice would you give to yourself?
That's such a great question because I don't have a lot of regrets. Like sometimes I get angry about things, but I don't regret things. But I think that belief that what I offer is valuable and to keep offering it and maybe not to try and shape it for other people. I'll keep honest. I've bounced, part of the other bouncing around of my work is that I'm been looking to please somebody. I want to please, but if I'm really honest with what I do, there'll be those that connect with it, not needing to be pleased. They just connect. And that's maybe a better goal than them just being pleased with me. So I would have liked to have maybe just kept my work up. I would have said, keep your work up, keep doing it. I really went hard into motherhood, and I went hard into living abroad and supporting my husband's company. And then it kind of broke, and I hadn't kept that other little piece going as well as it should have. So that's what I would like. I'd like for people to, just really keep kind of honestly looking at what for themselves, what they love.
Yeah, what fills them up. because
Yeah.
as a mother, you're giving, giving, giving. And we just had a Met on who when I met him, the first thing I was telling him was I wanted to take you home and cook for you and do your laundry and whatever because, I'm a mom. That's what
Yeah.
we do. But you're right, to invest in yourself and the time it takes to create these things. And now, kids grow up. That's the good thing. My grandkids are long gone. Now it's my time, nobody else's time.
Yeah.
But it's hard to carve that out.
Something that's kind of lovely was that my kids were just home for the weekend from school and they took their friends up to my studio. That was so that there's the things that I have done that has been me and that they are proud of.
Yeah.
And so that element that maybe that time wasn't me focusing on them, it's still something that they take a lot of joy in.
Yeah. My daughter, I used to draw in my sketchbook. I have these that I've used for years. These they have lines on the bottom so that if I couldn't think of the image or didn't have time to draw the image, I would just write the idea of the image down. And then later I would turn that into a print. And many years later, I was packing them up because I still have them all. She said, Mom, one of the things I'd like you to leave for me is your sketchbooks because I saw those turn into so many pieces of art. And I was like, oh, okay. So I got them. I hope she still wants them.
Yes, what a lovely thing for her to have noticed.
Yes, it was. She was, that was a sweet moment when, teenagers, how they must claw their way out of your hearts.
Yes.
To separate from them psychologically. But anyway, I've just enjoyed, I've missed you and wish we had more time, but both of us are, time, what did you say? Time poor? You're
Time poor.
Time poor. Yeah, Dan Martell, buy back your time. Well, I did buy back my time, and then I found some new things to do. He didn't tell me that was going to happen.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Anyway.
He wasn't totally upfront, that Dan.
That Dan.
That's
Dan
the next book. I think that's what it is. He's like, I'm going to sell you the next book.
Exactly. Well, he's got a lot of them. So where do we find you? Tell people where to find you.
Probably the best way is on Instagram. I'm at Feral Nifty. You know what the great thing about being Feral Nifty is that nobody else wanted that website or nobody else needed that Instagram. There was no competition for at Feral Nifty.
Yeah. Or eccentric Suz. There are none of those either.
No, exactly. So that was another great reason to become this girl. So at Feral Nifty at Instagram. I do have a website, which is feralnifty.com, though that's a lot of work to upkeep so it's not being upkept at all.
I know. Websites are just like having a boat. You just pour money into them. It just never, ever ends. we're about to redo Bob's, and I have one now coming up that the media people want to do, and I'm just like, but it's the way of the world.
That's the way. And you can look at my music on actually any platform. I say Spotify because that's what I use, but any of them, you can find Feral Nifty, but you can also find Luminata under the artist Luminata featuring Feral Nifty because it's kind of a separate project. And the stuff in the other music was from 2020 was actually just stuff I wrote that I never thought would ever meet anybody else's ears. It was just my own little process. And then Adam was like, we got some time on our hands.
Thank God for Adam.
I know. So that's how this is going to come out. Yeah. So there's that as well.
Yes. Okay. Well, great. For now, I say goodbye, my friend. And I was thinking you could have an Italian name, Feral Nifty.
Yes, I would actually like it. I think it could be so much more sophisticated if we give it a little bit of an accent.
Okay. Yeah. All right, sweetie. I love you.
All right. Lovely to see you. And I do hope we catch up again soon.
Yeah, I have some ideas for you to bring this show on the road, okay?
Please share. Please share.
Right.
Thank you.
Love you, baby. Thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please share this with a friend and subscribe where you listen to podcasts. Support our efforts through Patreon at TheKnifeWife, and for all Terzuola goodness, go to terzuola.net. And remember, if you're not laughing, you're not living. Comments and questions can be made on Instagram at TheKnifeWife Podcast or our Facebook group, The Knifewife Podcast. And if you're a couple who work together and would like to be on our podcast, tell us about yourself with an email at eccentricsuz.com or terzuola.net.